Hey guys, we're the Jersey Comic Crew, and today we are talking theories and speculation after WandaVision Episode 6. Come on into Westview.
Hi guys, Robert Chris here from the Jersey Comic Crew, and as Chris just said, we're doing a theories and speculation video for Episode 7 of WandaVision and for the rest of the series / Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, guys, the first thing we want to talk about is Monica Rambeau, and specifically who her contact is, right? We talked about this last week a little bit, who the contact is, but we need to readdress it again just because Monica and Jimmy Woo are going to meet this person, right? And now the wheels keep turning, the theories of it being Carol Danvers, Mr. Fantastic. You have so many people in here. And I guess this is more of like a check-in basis with you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any new people who you think it might be, or do you still stand firm with me thinking that it might be Reed Richards and this is going to be that big reveal moment?
So as much as I would love it to be Reed Richards, my issue is this. Reed Richards is going to be one of the biggest characters in the MCU once he's revealed, right? The movie Fantastic Four itself will be one of the newest, biggest IPs that they have, along with mutants and X-Men and everything else. He's basically going to take over as we kind of are theorizing and predicting, probably the Tony Stark role, right? He's going to take over that role of the big mega mind who's kind of in a bunch of different stuff. And I don't know if that's a character you bring in through text. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's a character... It's such a big, important character, not only to the MCU, but to Marvel in general. It's the first family of Marvel. It's the first comic book of Marvel. I don't know if that's a character you're just like, beep, boop, beep, boop, boop, beep, and you just wait for 3 dots and he shows up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's... I think it's almost too big for a reveal like that, personally.
I have one that's it's funny. It kind of fits, but it also doesn't. An engineer in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? That, it's great. We would love to see. It'll be a cameo, but not a huge, right? What if it's Ant-Man? What if it's Paul Rudd? What if it's just Paul Rudd and then he meets Jimmy Woo again? He's like, Jimmy!
You do have the Jimmy Woo connection.
That little Jimmy Woo connection. Something small, just so he could build something, and he's good at building suits. Or it could be Hank Pym, right? It could still.
I was about to say, Hank Pym might be more of the solution in that area.
Right?
But...
It might be like, here, we need to build a suit for you to get in, or build like a box for you to get in. It could be that. I do have a leaning suspicion that it might be a no-name character, like somebody new. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of leaning towards the Skrull as well, like Talos or one of them, because Monica knows the Skrulls. She had this kind of little like friendship with them as a kid, and we know they stayed on Earth due to the end of Spider-Man Far From Home.
Okay.
So is it possible one of the Skrulls comes in and it's like, hey, alien technology, alien stuff. Is there a solution we don't have the technology or knowledge for that could help us in this situation?
I like that.
Could it be a Skrull, which we also know Secret Invasion is on the docket as well with the MCU and with Disney Plus. Is this kind of a direct, kind of little bit of a preview involving a Skrull here? Not saying like someone... don't get me wrong, people. Don't get all weirded out because I'm saying Skrull. I'm not saying everyone's a Skrull.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the correlation and friendship that Monica had as a kid, could that have been something that continued through the years while Captain Marvel was away and she was kind of upset about it.
But I want to talk about, we've been talking about who Mephisto might be, right? Mephisto as a character might be in the show. We don't know, right? This is all speculation. Everybody's thinking it, like, who is Mephisto? Then how did Mephisto get here? Because, like, he needs a vessel or something else like that.
But why Mephisto?
Why is Gamora?
How is it possible that he's here, right? We kind of had the speculation of Hayward might be Mephisto or connected to Mephisto. Obviously, Agnes, we have still this kind of direct correlation line to possibly being Agatha Harkness, not confirmed yet, and her husband, Ralph, who we've never seen. I get that. Like, the speculation is very easy to do, is like, who is it? Is it him? Is it him? Is it him? But the other question, which is kind of the deeper question, right, is how is it possible that Mephisto could possibly get into this realm or onto Earth, right? He's from hell. He's in technically a different dimension of the Marvel Universe.
Correct.
How is it possible he's here? And I don't think we've had a kind of direct line, unless you're really pulling at straws, until this episode.
Why do you say that?
Well, we get this line from Wanda where she's talking to Pietro in one of the final scenes, which you and I detailed in the first breakdown episode. And it's when she's talking about her feelings after Endgame and how Pietro kind of showed up. And she's saying she was empty beyond grief, beyond, pain and suffering, to this numbness, this emptiness, this rage, all the every negative emotion possible wrapped up in a ball of just kind of, honestly, grief and craziness, right? It's driving her insane. And I think that could be a direct line of how Mephisto got here, right? You have this uber powerful, I'm going to use the phrase even though it's not confirmed, Omega level mutant in the MCU as Wanda, right? We saw her expand her dome almost with ease, right? She kind of just, her eyes lit up and boom, that's it. She is controlling hundreds, if not, small town, right?
Yes.
A couple hundred people. And on top of that, we have a character who needs kind of a vessel or something to kind of send him through dimensions if they're sticking with the comic book reality, which I'm sure they will change a little bit.
So, two things I want to touch upon with the how Mephisto thing is, right?
Yeah.
First, Quicksilver does say, hey, I was getting shot in the streets, and next thing I heard, you were calling me, and then you pulled me in, right? What if by her pulling his spirit up, right? Let's say this is spirit, and he's not going to be real, stay here for a while.
He's a ghost.
By pulling the spirit out from the underworld or from wherever it was, Mephisto tagged along almost like a parasite to bring it in, and Agatha kind of setting the groundwork to kind of set the playing field, right? Could be, right? Option 2, it's, the husband Ralph, who we haven't seen at all. Option 3, and I'm thinking this is more likely. Guys, I don't think Mephisto's here. I don't think remember when we first started speculating that I'm thinking Wanda's the villain here the whole time, or this is all Wanda. There's no other dark force here. This whole Mephisto line is just a great Easter egg that they been playing and having fun with. I don't think we have enough evidence to I'm sitting here. We have 3 episodes left. I'm this Mephisto play. We were relying on Agatha Harkness, right? Our Agnes, right? To be in that character to kind of bring in Mephisto, maybe hint it. But it seems like she's just a normal person. Maybe she's playing with it and haha, big tricks on us. But them to go out of their way to say, oh, she doesn't know what's going on, right? I think it was a whole dupe for us to this point. We were thinking it's one way, then they made the left turn. Oh, this is just a normal person. I'm all right. Other than that, and we thinking that's this, and us reading too much into this, I don't really have a lot of evidence for Mephisto. Maybe they're just setting the seeds in our minds for Mephisto, and they can do that down the road, and maybe that with the Loki trailer. And we know they're going to play with Blade and all the other stuff, and maybe we're oh, we've seen hints of Mephisto throughout the MCU for years now. Maybe that's something that we're going to be saying down the road in 5 years. I just don't think Mephisto's here. I don't think it's. I don't have any evidence. And
here's a crazy theory that goes in line with that.
Yeah,
I have a crazy theory that goes in line with that, which, again, spoilers if I'm right, if I'm wrong, great. And I'm just going to say it because it's a little crazy.
Go ahead.
If it's not Mephisto, I think it's Mysterio.
No. Stop.
Yes. I think, 1, I don't think Mysterio's dead. And 2, who else could confuse all of these people? Not all these people,
Wanda.
but but Wanda's clearly not fully in control. Wanda clearly, there are certain blank spots in Wanda's area of 1, she clearly doesn't have a hold on Vision, right? Yeah. Number 2, she, Agatha Harkness, Agnes, if it is the case, and she's Agatha Harkness, Mephisto could be controlling her, right? She is Mephisto's sidekick, but it doesn't negate her from being controlled by him. What if it's not Mephisto and he comes later in Loki, which I don't think, right? I don't think it's the case. I think Mephisto might show up here, and I think he might be kind of a Disney Plus ongoing villain, which also Hayward, not necessarily, because I think they want a bigger face actor for that role. But I am, Mysterio's another illusionist, and they've said the word illusion a lot. Could Mysterio be hiding out as someone in this? Could Mysterio be Jimmy Woo's missing person who is under protection because he outed Spider-Man and legally would need protection. Going on trial.
I think it's a fun theory. I think
it's very fun.
It's fun to listen to. I think it's a crock of shit.
If I'm right, you will brick your pants.
Yeah, I'll break my pants. I'll take it all back. Next thing we want to talk about, again, Monica Rambeau, right? Darcy, almost a throwaway line, was talking to her saying, "You've been in the Hex twice now. Your DNA and everything has been changed twice. Does that mean that Monica Rambeau is going to get her powers, become Captain Marvel too? Photon is one of her superhero aliases.
I think it's going to be Photon, personally.
Right? Yeah, it's going to be Photon, right? Is that what it is? Did this Wanda's Hex thing activate a gene in people, right? You know, maybe the X gene. What if Wanda, right? We saw her expand it, right? The Hex. And that visually, in my mind, when I saw that, I could see her going mad, getting crazy, releasing herself, just screaming, ah! And like almost like a blast, and she expands and explodes the Hex, right? But the shockwave of it circles everybody on Earth, hits everybody at once, and then some people react differently and awakens a gene in them, an X gene or a Hex gene, Hex, but they just call it X because it's funnier, right? Hex X gene, and that's how we can get mutants everywhere. That could be something small and simple that creates this. And maybe she gets her powers because she's been hit with that so many times. And maybe before she was hit with something else cosmic. So the combination of the X gene with Monica getting hit by something in the cosmic world where she was out on a mission with Carol Danvers, let's say that she got hit, that turns into a photon. So she's not a mutant, but technically all people with powers are mutants, right? They said that in the comics. Like if you look deep down with the whole anthology and mythology of the Eternals, the Inhumans, mutants, deviants, these celestial beings came to Earth and experimented on people.
Hulk, Spider-Man.
Gene, right? Spider-Man, Hulk, they're all mutants. And these other effects just activated their genes. So they're not mutants, but they technically are. That could be the same situation with Monica Rambeau turning into Photon and the whole rest of the world becoming mutants.
Yeah, I think there's two options, right? The one is Monica has something special in her already that is reacting to this. Also, she's the only one who's been in direct contact with Wanda's powers from inside, right? Like, in direct contact, I mean, as she was thrown out of the Hex bubble. And that could be a major possibility of how it's changing with Wanda's powers deriving from the Mind Stone, right? And the other option is the one that I think everyone's thinking about too, is everyone under this dome changing? Or if you are inside of this thing and you don't have protection on as far as like hazmat suit, yada, yada, is it altering your DNA? Is it altering your genome? Is this how the kind of reverse House of M theory is going to go of like, you know, all the mutants instead of no more mutants? We've seen kind of that happen already where she says no and changes things, right? But I don't know. This is a big one. And if, again, I'm sorry, going back to the demon Mephisto, if he is somehow getting through to Earth by Wanda's pain and using her pain and agony as a vessel, or using Agatha Harkness, is, you know, again, there's a theory Agnes killed the dog in the last episode as kind of a sacrifice to Mephisto to help bring him in.
Oh, I never even heard of that theory.
Could the parallel universe theory as well, if Mephisto's like world portal opens up mixed with Wanda's energy and powers, is that going to create mutants as well? Is there has to be a price if he comes in, right? That isn't just Wanda. The price is going to be bigger than that. The price is going to be, no, it's affecting innocence. The price is, no, like, you are ruining the lives of innocents, and that could be a direct correlation as well. So maybe that's a possibility in the mutant side of things in this dome, right? So, and
maybe Wanda, like, she loses her mind and like snaps and create the dimensions of madness, right? The multiverse of madness, like that Doctor Strange and her have to deal with.
Yeah, and they have to go through and fix it. And I think Wanda's going to be a villain up until she snaps out of her own pain, right? And that may be cheesy for a lot of people, me included.
I think
it's going to be bigger than that, but I think she has to be part of the solution with Doctor Strange to fix it.
Correct.
I also still think Doctor Strange is going to show up by the end of this.
I don't think necessarily that she's going to be the villain. I think that's the wrong word that we're using. I think she's just going to do something bad while she's lashing out, like with, and she can't control it, and now she has to pretty much fix her mess.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch about before we end this episode, guys, a little bit about this, the world dimensions, the multi-dimensions, and then Pietro, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, and as much as I'm like, oh, that's the Fox X-Men coming in, right? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like, because we saw him turn gray, dead, with the bullet holes. To Wanda, this is the same Pietro. This is not a different Pietro. This is the same Pietro with a different face. Much different than that Pietro. I don't think this is the Fox Pietro. I think he just looks like him. Now, why he looks like him? Maybe it's from a different dimension, a multiverse.
Mysterio.
Right? No, stop with the Mysterio nonsense. I'm thinking like she pulled him from a different multiverse where it's the same things are happening, but he just looks a little different, right? Like it's on a spectrum. There's infinite possibilities. So maybe she pulled him from there, not necessarily the Fox universe, just a different universe. The other thing is that it could just be a spirit, right? And like a shadow that she sees, and it's not real, but like obviously other people see Pietro. So I think the whole Pietro angle has to get further developed.
Absolutely.
I just sitting here now, I don't think that Pietro is our Pietro from the Fox universe. I think it's a different Pietro. Now, who that Pietro is or what that Pietro is yet to be seen.
Well, yeah, no, I agree, and I mentioned this last week, right? We were all on a high of like, oh my god, it's mutants, it's X-Men,
especially me, yes.
And I was the one who was kind of cautious of like, listen, this is not going to be what you think. It's not going to be just straight up. Here's the mutants in this way, right? And you were right. Like, it can't be the same as what she did with Vision. She brought Vision's body. She has Vision's dead body, animatronic dead body, trying to bring him back to life. And in this world, he's alive. There's no way she brought Pietro's dead body out of the ground and he was just super speed running as a dead zombie to the bubble.
Maybe she did.
Again, that's where
the scary thing, because she could. She has that, like Wanda does. We don't know if she can.
We don't know if she can from that distance.
In comics, when she's crazy, she can't.
Yes,
right?
But if Pietro's buried in
Sokovia,
the remnants of Sokovia,
yeah.
The amount of power, like, we're going into like Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker through the planets thing, of her grabbing him and like,
it's scary.
I don't know if that's possible. Besides, again, we kind of talked about this too. She mentions Pietro, gets upset. She blows Monica Rambeau out of her life. She, goes into this kind of deep depression with the kids. That's when she sees like kind of Vision as well, dead. Again, she's talking about reality and horrible things are happening. She sees Pietro dead.
Yeah.
I think this is the world reacting, whatever other force is there, whether it's Mysterio, whether it's Agnes, whether it's Mephisto, Mysterio, whoever it is, that is possibly being like, hey, we need to be very careful with her. Let's give her something in return to make her feel happy for right now.
It could be.
I don't know, but I think Pietro is going to be the key to kind of creating the full circle of this, because two things. One, again, why does he have Evan Peters' face then? It's not a throwaway. Marvel doesn't do throwaways like that, or they don't ignore major things like that. And number two, he is more than anyone at this point in time in only an episode breaking the fourth wall as us.
Well, not fourth wall. He's breaking. Oh well, he's breaking Wanda's fourth wall, not the.
He's breaking fourth wall. But he's breaking the show fourth wall in the sense of like asking the same questions we have, right?
Correct.
He's asking like, well, how did you get me here? Or like, where did your accent go? You're asking me. I don't know. I don't really remember. He has the same vision issues. He doesn't remember anything before Westview besides, I was getting shot up in Sokovia, and the next thing I know, I heard you calling me and needing me, and I was here. So those aspects are going to connect somewhere. Yeah. And whether it's with a different character or, again, there's always the theory, right? It could be simplified that Wanda is so kind of powerful and out of her mind at the moment, she doesn't know half the things she's actually doing.
That could be, like, her powers could be evolving, and her consciousness is just so weak.
And it's too strong for her body, right? Like the Goku theory, where it's like the power's too strong for his own body to handle.
And he goes Primal Ape, right? Like,
and he goes Primal Ape.
Like ODBZ. Well, guys, that does it for this theories episode. We want to know your theories and thoughts down in the comments below of the craziness that we just saw from WandaVision episode 6. Let me know what you think is going to happen in episode 7 and the rest of the series.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, like. Really helps the channel out a lot. If you're brand new, subscribe. Turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss this. You don't want to miss theories. You don't want to miss speculation. You don't want to miss the breakdown and Easter eggs from before. You don't want to miss the next 3 episodes. We're in the end game now. And as always, I'm Chris. That's Rob. We're the Jersey Com Crew. We'll see you next time in Westview.